We defeated the Nazis by punching them a lot. 'Cause we punched a lot of Nazis. And it worked! They didn't show up in DC.
Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and it's almost rather adorable when the left brags about the non-tangible, short-term victories that they think that they have obtained by being unruly and acting foolish. It's not uncommon for feminists to say, well-behaved women rarely make history, right after they condone the completely unreasonable actions of a fellow feminist. And I went into depth about the left's current demonization of quote-unquote respectability politics in my recent video about the Democratic Party's hood politics. The art of doing something non-justifiable and then rationalizing it later seems to be fairly well honed among the left, though it is by no means a skill confined to such people. However, what I wasn't sure I'd ever see would be a leftist desperately trying to say that they have actually accomplished something tangible with that silly punch a Nazi slogan. Until yesterday. I'll direct you to Exhibit A, which is a sentiment that you can undoubtedly find all over social media by now if you try, and will maybe be written about at length on blogs and perhaps on some YouTube channels. Maybe ContraPoints, H-Bomber Guy, Riley, Dennis, Philosophy Tube, and the other leftist usual suspects themselves will make similar sentiments in the future in video form. But if we punch and intimidate Nazis, what are the consequences? The consequences are that Nazis get afraid, stay home, and lose their influence and public face. It's not perfect, but it seems to have a net positive. Nazis aren't afraid of polite protesters. Hashtag Unite the Right too. I don't know who this Leon Thomas is, but he's obviously a brilliant political science tactician. Clearly a man that has studied Sun Tzu's The Art of War very thoroughly and knows precisely how to defeat a serious threat to one's homeland. Well played, sir. Well played, left. I'm sure legitimate racists are going back to the drawing board with their tails between their legs, and there weren't hardly any people at the Unite the Right 2 rally for a single other reason than besides all of the violence reasons, such as, well, the fact that maybe nobody wants to be associated with the second annual run people over in a car gathering. However, I'm not making this video to sit around debunking the painful illogic of a statement that implies that punching people that you suspect of being Nazis is somehow a tangibly fruitful endeavor. Because, ultimately, people can go ahead and think what they want to think about that, and there's been far too many videos made about whether or not it's okay to punch quote-unquote Nazis. No, what I want to do is bring up an entirely different thing to ponder, which I will do by assuming that the premise that this guy proposes is correct, and that very few people showed up to the Unite the Right 2 rally in Washington, D.C. because they were, in fact, Nazi white supremacists or whatever that got scared by all the punching from those really tough Antifa guys over the past year. Assuming that's true, and that the Nazis are simply scared now, what does it say that the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer are still willing to show up in mass numbers in Portland, which probably isn't the home turf of a lot of those guys, dwarfing their black-clad opposition while still being willing to show their faces? Yes, leftists have been calling both groups Nazis too for well over a year, and it appears that the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer seemingly have only grown in numbers since last year, and they absolutely aren't afraid to show up and confront Antifa, though it would seem that maybe Antifa is growing a bit afraid of them. If you are a leftist that calls Republican Nazis, how would you reconcile that one? What does it say that these groups, which are explicitly anti-racist and have people of all colors, absolutely aren't afraid of being punched or even attacked with weapons? While, the legitimate white identitarian type people maybe are becoming more afraid. I'm not really sure how exactly you'd rationalize that one in your head, besides, of course, admitting that while real racists might be starting to live in fear, non-racist right-wingers are becoming more and more proud of their beliefs, their nation, and their peers. So maybe that means they're not Nazis, and you were calling non-Nazis Nazis kind of a lot for kind of a while. Though, you guys seem to be good at rationalizing things, so I imagine you'll come up with something.